sore PSLH ITB Session 5. So today's main agenda is a discussion with Pak Datu Buyung Agus Dinata, comes from Arizona State University. Okay, so brief about Pak Datu Buyung Agus Dinata. He finished his undergraduate from aerospace and mechanical engineering at ITB. Also finished his PhD, also masters in Delft University of Technology in Netherlands. Okay, so for today's main topic is about a system dynamic strategy to achieve SDGs that will be explained by Pak Dato. So without any further ado, we are very honored to invite Pak Datu to come forward, and the time is yours.
So, selamat siang. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, welcome. Excited to be here. I think I've met some of you before. Sure, okay. Yeah, I would like to talk about SDGs with you and have a discussion. And then later, after this, we're going to do actually an exercise, right? So I want you to actually try to think for yourself with your teammates and peers. So let's get started here. So raise your hand if you have heard about SDGs. Raise your hand. All? Yeah, so how long has SDG been around? 20 years already? 25 years, right? So we're gonna actually, it's gonna end it in 5 years. So the way I want you to think about SDG is that the world leaders and, you know, from the society, from government think that the earth is in problem, right? So in danger. So they decided to come and, you know, come up with a framework, an agenda to save the planet from us. So that's, I think, what it is. And overall, you can say it's about making sure that the next generation also could, you know, have a life that can be also, you know, transferred to the next generation and so on, right? So that's what sustainability is about. So your children, your grandchildren can still enjoy your quality of life as of now, yeah? And I don't want to explain all this, but you know about the scope of SDGs. So I want to see more how you can look at it from a system perspective. So just a quick check. How many targets are there for SDGs? We know there's 17 SDGs, right? Goals. But each goal has targets, specific. X% reduction on A. If you count them all, how many are there? You can quickly Google it. Or use ChatGPT. 200, 300, anyone? How many SDG targets? 269? 169, right? That's a lot. And I think some of those targets might be relevant to what you are studying right now. Okay, so people are excited about SDGs, but some people are also critical. Yes, and you can imagine, remember SDGs, so about 170 world leaders meet in Brazil, I think. And through the process, they agreed on 17. So it's not a perfect one, but of course, there's still always something, room for improvements, correct? So So some of the main reservation, I would say, right? Criticism about SDGs is too broad. They're not very interconnected. They're not so focused. And some of them are totally not possible. They're like a dream, right? Not realistic. So based on this, we need something that could tie them together, right? Instead of 1, 2, 3, loose, separate. You want something that can be integrated so that they act as one. So when you do something here, it's actually, you know what's going to happen with the rest of the goals. So with that in mind, people are thinking, let's find something that, you know, a framework that could integrate the 17 goals. So I gave you this too. This is a bit outdated. So maybe there may be some more recent ones. But can you see now, instead of just block, they are now connected in a way, in a different way. Yes. So that's the idea, right? So you can think of it as, and you can do it yourself even. You can come up with something else totally different. But the goal is to actually link them, and so that you can actually explain. Some of them may be in the clusters, as you can see. Yes. And of course, they, if it fits like this one, it's even better. So it looks nice, concentrating, circles fitting together. But yeah, so this is not trivial, right? There are a lot of bright, people are spending time thinking, how can we, put these goals into something coherent? All right, so if you look at the first one on the left there, what do we see there? Interconnection, correct? And there are arrows. Arrows have certain weight or, thickness. What does it represent? Some of them are very closely related. Some of them are loosely related, yeah? Even not related at all, some of them. So, and this one, you can say that there is a core of SDGs right on the center. And then you have the second outer ring, yeah? And then the third one. What is at the core? Can you see that? 17? What is 17?
Kalau sejauh ini kan ada yang sampai di
17 is about collaboration among countries. You know this idea of exchange, sharing, collaborate, yeah? So that's goal 17, right? So it's nothing actually about earth or, environment. It's about people have to actually work together. And they make it a goal because it's important, right? Developed countries, developing countries, and so on. And then what will be the outer layer, the most outside? Can you see? Yeah, the Earth system. You can do whatever you want, but we have only one Earth, right? They put constraints on us. So that's the boundary. People even call it, there's another way, the planetary balance. There's just so much water we have, right? So if you want a economy right in the middle, the economic system, we have to work within. You know this, right? You have objective, but you have constraints. So that you see the land, the water, and that has to do with SDG 13.6. Water sanitation is another constraint. Okay, you got the idea. That's what I want you, right? You got the idea what is the thinking behind this framework? Okay, this is another way you can use, I don't know whether you can reduce the size of that. So I told you already, right? So you can do, okay, that's good. You can do your own thinking and come up with a new way of looking at SDGs. So this is another one. So right in the middle it's about the well-being. So it's about us, people, from, newborn babies till, our elderly, right? So all phase of life. And then you can see what SDGs that actually cover sort of the theme of well-being, right? In the center. And then something behind that setup thing is the second layer is infrastructure. So now you can see that, okay, infrastructure is there to support well-being, right? Now we talk about water sanitation. What else we have there? Cities, resilient infrastructure, inclusive, sustainable industrialization, and so on. And then the last one is, again, the environment, right? The natural environment. So you want to restore a terrestrial ecosystem, conservation, and so on. All right, so let me stop here then, because I want you to actually digest and ask yourself, any thoughts, any questions from online maybe? You are monitoring the online. Okay. So anyone online, if you have any questions so far, feel free. No. Just one thought, what do you take away from this? Is this new? You already know this? Anyone? All right, then we'll stop here. Any thoughts? All right, now I have to mention names. Nabila, what do you think? I say, yeah, okay. Anyone share that thought, or is it new that you know already the SDGs, but the connections may be new, right? How they interrelated? All right, that's good, thanks. Let's continue here. Is it working? So now we can put it more broadly. So I'm gonna, leave the SDGs. Now you can talk about food, energy, water, right? All this topic that we are familiar with. And now still we want to make those connections. We want to make sure we understand, we call it interdependencies, right? You got that? So one is dependent on, so A is dependent on B, at the same time, B also is dependent. So now you can see how all this, again, this is conceptual and you can come up with your own. But if you look into this, you see some familiar, right? And the reasoning behind how food and water are connected, water to energy, water to health. I think I used this example before. Welcome, coming in, take your seats. So for example, this is something big in countries in Africa, for example. Are you from Africa? Which country? Tanzania. The connection between energy and education. So sorry to take your continent as an example, but many villages are without electricity, right? And during the nights, if you're a student, no way you can learn, no way you can study. So this is sounds trivial, but once they have electricity, things change, right? People can do business, kids can study, academic performance improve, and so on. So that's, of course, it's not here. It's no longer an issue, but in many countries, big issues, and it's going to have a long-term, effect, right? Because if children learn, they can do better for their when they are becoming adult and so on. Yeah. What else? I think I used the example of, well, let's take industrial development. We need a lot of energy. And the problem with us in Indonesia, for example, is what? The source of energy. Yeah, most of our industrialization is powered by electricity produced by dirty sources, right? So it should have some consequences to the health there. Same with water pollution and so on. So that's another thinking how from a system perspective. So you guys are on mostly water or waste, but think of it as, there's call it a nexus. So there is a wastewater and energy can be one, waste and energy can be a nexus. Health, food, water could be a nexus. That means that you cannot just isolate. Since I'm an environmental engineer, I just look into, just water infrastructure, and we can't do that anymore, right? Because we're gonna, I think it's either waste or you're just not doing fair, because you actually can do more, right? You can do more to address health problems, for example. But then that requires that you actually work with people with knowledge about health, people with knowledge about energy. So that's another thing that is now becoming also important. So disciplines have to work together, yeah? And it's simply because the problem requires, so it's not about environmental engineering, it's not about an environmental engineering problem anymore. But then you have, let's say, environmental degradation that requires environmental engineering, but also insight from, sociology, cultural policy, public policy, and so on, right? So it's similar to this, when you get sick, when you have stomach problem, how does a doctor diagnose you? They will give you, right? They will tell you, okay, you have to do test A, B, C, D, right? So check, I don't know about medical, but check this, check that, and then you have a big picture about the issue. So they won't just say, oh, I'm a specialist in, what is it? What is a specialization in medicine? You cannot just use that, OBG, for example, right? Well, maybe, but you have internal medicines and so on. But then they have to look everywhere to actually, bring, all the tools, all the tests, be able to diagnose, provide a good diagnosis. So we have to think the same way when we deal with environmental degradation, poverty, yeah, social justice, social well-being, and so on. Okay. I know some of you learned system dynamics. Raise your hand. Yeah, and you know about stock and flow diagram, yeah? Oops. So this is one way that we can actually model these interactions. So you see on rat, you see, right? There is a health area there. This is in the context of what would happen if we produce or adopt electric vehicles. So you have production of that, you have the adoption, and there is support from biofuels, electricity, and so on. So you can make it as, this is a complex model, but we can also simplify it, right? But my point here is, however model you build, you have to take into account that they are interdependent. It's too much. It's like a spaghetti. Well, the cool thing is if you'll be able to model this and then you have data to input it, then you can run simulation, and I love simulation, right? Why? Because then you can say, what if we do more of this, less of that? How would that affect, one over there health, right? So that's what we are doing modeling for, as you know. And yeah, it's really fun. And even if you come up with this, you learn a lot, because then you have to think, what is that arrow? Why is it connecting here, not connecting there? You have to ask a lot of this, and you have to find out why, and so that you can actually defend this, and some of the expert here could also see what you're doing, right? So that's system modeling. Please come in. So if you're interested, some of you, for example, I mentioned before, the nexus between food, energy, water, and health. And think of it from a system, right? Interaction, system interdependencies, context of, let's say, West Java, Indonesia. I think that will be exciting, and I don't know whether people have done that before. People done that before? Food, energy, water, health for Indonesia? Not yet. So ITB then, right? To be the first to do that. Mentioned interdependencies a lot, remember? It's dependent that. But then if you look further, there are different types of interdependencies. So one of them is, let's start from the bottom. Reinforces, meaning they go together. So if you do this, it would actually take the other one and go together, right? So that's the red one. Oh, sorry, the green one. Green one represent reinforcing interdependencies. Can you see? Take an example. Green one. Looking for volunteer again. Let's take this two, integrated water resources management and sustainable food system. So what does it mean that one reinforces the other? Anyone? What do you think? What's your name? Our friend from Tanzania, yes. Silvania? Yeah, so how are those two reinforces each other? The water resources and food, sustainable food system. What do you think? What does it mean? Reinforces mean yeah. 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 But then in on the flip side of it is you have something that impose conditions. So that's the blue one. So they're going together. Impose condition mean that this one should happen first before the other one can happen. It's like prerequisites. All right, let's take another example here. Do you have water related? The blue one, where's the blue one? There, sustainable water withdrawals and supply impose condition to access to energy service. How is that? What does water supply have to do with energy supply? Anyone? Is there any connection between water supply and energy? No? Yes, you're right. You need energy to distribute water. But how about the other way? Do you need water to supply energy? Okay, so that's the idea, right? So those interdependencies, if you look deeper, now you can see more different types, different conditions. And again, this is a system thinking, right? So you have to go beyond just, you know, city planning only or architecture only, water infrastructure only. You have to look at it from all aspects. It's just an example of synergies. So I think we talk about that. Reinforces. You can see it as one has a synergy over the other. So if you do, for example, end poverty and zero hunger, how's the synergy happens, right? Well, if you're poor, you cannot buy food, and right. And then end poverty. So end poverty is actually one of the most consequential SDG, don't you think? So if you end poverty, goal 6, clean water and sanitation comes together. There's a synergy there. Anyone can see that? End poverty to affordable clean energy. So actually, if you think about it, what is the most influential measure or policies that could change, people well-beings? So one of the most important one, there's a study is free trade. And why is that? Because free trade lifts people out of poverty. Yeah. You know how many people live in China? 1 billion over. So because they have free trade, they can, they have manufacturing, they're factory of the world before, right? 300 million people, they were poor before, because now they have factories, they can earn money, manufacturing, they're up. And that's the biggest. Imagine lifting out 300 million people from poverty. Another interesting measure of policy is, what was that? Oh, family planning. Yeah, so, okay, so just few examples here about the role of examples of synergies. And here's one example. I did a study in Lombok. So It's a place where I was born and I grew up there. So we look into this. We focus on, so now we have target 2.3. So remember, goal 2 is about and hunger, right? So one of the targets says double the agriculture productivity and incomes. So double means 2 times. And they go very specific. Small scale food producers, so not the rich farmers, small farmers with small lands. Women, indigenous peoples, fisheries, fishermen. So this is the target. So we work with fishermen there, and some of the SDG that has to happen is life below water, specific 14.B, and so on. And then one of the outcome from that is gender equality. I don't know which goal. So one of the goals, right? 5.5. Ensure women's full and effective participation. So it's very specific. I think sure that is actually to give women more rights towards land ownership. So if we give women the ability to actually own land under their name, it's actually ensure the, that's one of the participation, and that will increase will achieve the gender equality, right? Poverty is, of course, and then you have the inequalities. So economic growth result in wealth, right? But inequality means that some people get more, portion of that get a little, and big portion of it get less or nothing. So that's inequality, and I think we have big issue in our country about inequality. Anyone want to share that? Anyone disagree with that or agree? Do we have problem with inequality in this country? Yeah? What do you think? Next to you. Do we have big issue with inequality? Oh yeah, during the night you can see, yeah, you're talking about the lights. Yes. Even among countries, I don't know what you mean that, but if you look at from satellite photos, you see lights, right? During the night from satellites, some of them are very bright. And if you go to certain countries, it's very dark. That's another example of. So, I mean, I know you want to get your degree and get a good job, but I think we have issues with a lot of issues. So I think this is my last one. You're familiar with AMDAL, Environmental Impact Assessment, correct? So I want you to think about what you're doing in AMDAL, and then ask, does my AMDAL cover all SDGs, all SDG targets? What do you think? Not really, right? So this is a mapping that actually tells you if I'm interested in marine ecotoxicity, that indicator or assessment, I'm looking into certain targets. So I have to find it on that map, right? You're familiar with ozone depletion, for example, right? Particulate matter. So it has to do, so now we need to find which targets actually is something related with particulate matter, certain air pollution, right? So we look into that. Yeah, maybe there's certain, so that's how we can now map out what you're doing in your lives in AMDAL or environmental impact assessment. And then you can say maybe to companies or to local government, I'm doing this. Now you can claim that you're already addressing certain target and even measure, right, whether the target is achieved to what extent. So that's it. for my introduction a little bit. So yeah, I'm open for any questions, comments from you all.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Datu. So, if you guys have any question, please raise your hand. Okay, so online ya. So for the participant in Zoom, if you guys have any question, please chat or just raise your hand. Okay, so Pak Datu, we have some question that we already collect before. So okay, so there are about 5 questions about the presentation. So the first one about I think how can system dynamics can be used to simulate the impacts of deforestation?
Land use, and you go ask what caused land use? Some are changed to, from forest to agricultural land, right? Farmland. Are you talking about specific region or in general? In general, because I don't know whether in Kalimantan, Sumatra, some of them have different reasons, right? So yeah. Mining, yeah. So take mining there. And mining is also driven by demand for minerals, right? So now, I think, let's back up. I think it's important that you ask the question, what do I want to know? What do I want to use my model for? What is your research question? What is your question? Because you can model anything, yeah? So for example, you can ask how, so you want to just simulate the impacts, but actually what you want to know is how can we reduce or, minimize the impact of deforestation, for example, right? Kita mau mengurangi kan impact. Because if you just want to know the impact without and then stop, I don't think that's what you want, right? Okay, so now you know what you want to do, specific question, and you ask, okay, what do I need to know to consider? And you list that for those factors. Climate change could be, right? Mining industry, farm, I don't know, hydrology. And so, and then now you make those connections. Now you draw, okay, are these connected in what way? Is the arrow going from here and there? So once you have that, you can say, okay, now I'm going to model my forest as a stock and flow. So forest area in hectares, right? And you have rate of deforestation, meaning it's going to decrease that. And what is the speed of that? Go to the data and see how much, let's say the past 10 years, Can you say how fast is deforestation happening? Every year, 1% rate every year. So you use that and then you input it into your model as a parameter. And then you have mining activities as maybe as a stock also. They consume land, right? At what rate? So it's all about that. It's about stock and how fast things change, right? In terms of the input, the inflow, and the output. That's all about system dynamics. Okay. Hope that answers questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Datu. So the next question is, what are the key aspects required to achieve the SDGs? From Mbak Amalia.
See here? No. Wow, this is a big question. Well, okay, I mentioned about what is SDG 17? Yeah, partnership, collaboration. And I think that's important, partly because I think, right? Some of our problems, actually, we know the solution, don't we? We don't need high tech to solve some of our basic problems. But then why we are not doing it, or why don't we see any impacts or implementation? Why? Anyone? Well, some people do not want change because it's going to affect them, you know, the vested interest, right? They like the way it is now because they make profit out of it, right? So they resist the change. It's happening, right? So this is now we're talking about power dynamics. Some people just, you know, they like pollution because they make money out of pollution. Correct? So I think I remember who is the former Jakarta governor, Ahok. I think I quoted from him. He said, I know how to solve Jakarta problem, you know, the pollution, congestion, but I have to deal with this, you know, that one, and that's difficult. So back to SDGs, it's the same thing, right? So with SDGs about countries, so countries that have technologies need to ensure that, you know, they can bring those technologies to other countries that need them. Yeah. So, and again, part of this, of course, in university, we are trying to keep the technologies, you know, to keep it more advanced, but I think 80% of our problems can be solved by existing technologies. Right? Okay, next one.
So for the next one, coming from Johan, is it possible to establish a sustainable system within the environment, considering that the concepts of mass balance and efficiency could never reach 100%, and that maximizing sustainability clearly requires significant costs, which most systems would naturally be unwilling to bear?
So mass and balance, is that natural constraint? Thermodynamics is natural constraint, right? We cannot you cannot bypass thermodynamics. Yes. So yeah, that's what I meant with, you know, we have constraint. You know, natural law prevent us for doing, you know, what we want. For example, you know, solar panel, what's it? 15-20% max. It's thermodynamic, you know, loss. So you have to work within those boundaries. I guess that's the answer. So the answer, right? But there's a lot more within that we can actually, you know, work with within the boundary, the parameters. And in terms of cost, I think we all know, right? So humans, we are we are rational being, but sometimes we also do things that are irrational. But in terms of costs, most of us will choose the lowest cost option, correct? The cheapest one. So that's why we have subsidies, because then we want to make this new alternative to be able to compete, right? So take renewables. So subsidies in, renewables to compete with fossil fuels. But we cannot keep going, right, with subsidies. At one point, wind energy, solar energy have to be able to compete without any intervention with. And in some countries, it's actually happening. Which one, Germany, in the US even, producing energy from wind and solar is actually cheaper than producing it from coal. But now the politics gets in and they want to revive the coal industry because most of the people that choose them lives in the coal producing states, right? So it's about bribing the people. Again, that's system thinking again. You have to think about this political dynamics. All right. Still two more?
We can still continue. Okay, for the next question is, in video reports uploaded on the Dewi News YouTube channel, agricultural activities often come into conflict with the local communities over the availability of clean water. I have observed that many countries with intensive agricultural production are experiencing high levels of water stress. How can we use a system dynamic approach to help policymakers and agricultural stakeholders balance export demands with the conservation of the local water resources? From Jundi.
So, yeah. So system dynamic is just what? A tool, right? It's just like your screwdrivers. You use it when it fits. It's your, hammer. So you have to understand, I think, where do you need to use system dynamics? It's not like the whole answer can be, this whole problem, all problems can be answered by using system dynamics. And sometimes because we love AMDAL or we love certain tool, we think that we can answer every problem with that. It is as if you have a hammer, someone say, can you fix my face, and you use hammer, what happened? You break it, right? So if you hammer, you see every problem as a nail, I can pluck here, I can pluck there. So that's also another issue that I want you to be aware of. Yes, of course, I think the issue of culture, water quality, eutrophications, I think system dynamics will be a very good tool to model. And the same way, there's, step 1, 2, if you want to build a system dynamic model. So I think related to the first question, I think it's important to build your conceptual, think of it conceptually. Just think of in terms of variables, what variables I should consider and how are these variables interconnected before you build stock and flow. And as I said, you will learn a lot, right? Just thinking about which factor I should consider and what variables there would be there. All right, last one.
Okay, so for the last question from Nurfianto, what aspects can be examined through the system dynamic strategy, particularly in the context of current government policy topics such as the MBG program, makan bergizi gratis, nickel downstreaming, palm oil, and sugar palm?
Fianto, what is SP? Sarjana? Pertanyaan. Never mind. Yeah, so system dynamics thinking, I think some of the concept you so is important. So not just build the model, the quantitative model. What can you learn, for example, right? So you learn about how the system behave over time, and we're talking about long term. You learn about exponential growth, right? There's some oscillations pattern. There's some, reach its maximum capacity and then collapse. So all this could be gained from, building system dynamics model. So again, the keyword is system behavior over time. We're not just interested to see what happened in the next 2 years. We're interested to see what happened in the next 20 years, 50 years. And the problem with government is there's a cycle of election, which is what? How many years? 4 years? 4 or 5? 5 years. So, and then we demand them to deliver something, right? Within those 5 years. While system has have inertia, correct? Remember the second law of Newton's second law of motion? That's inertia. So think about 200 million people, you want to change it. There's a lot of inertia there. So I think from someone with a system thinking, they understand there will be delayed, right? There's no easy solution, and it's going to be long term. So I think that's some of the question. And then there's also something called path dependency. Anyone heard about that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to go back to that slide? Okay. This one is with this concept of path dependency. What does it mean? So what it means that if you choose certain strategy, it will take you to certain directions. So you have to follow, as a consequence of your decision, you cannot change. So for example, look at your keyboards. At one point, people decide to use QWERTY, right? And that's path dependency, because then everyone will adopt that. So you can imagine before there's an alternative of the keyboard. Same way we used to have this Betamax and video format. And because of the decision to choose this, then we will have to follow it for the long time. So the same way with policy, if you choose to downstream or go with sugar palm, sometimes it's hard to change. So there will be every year you have to live with the consequence. So I guess that covers the question. Can you go back to the slide? There's a question on the. So basically, you look at indicators. What indicators do you use for your EAI? What do you measure? Yeah, water quality. Now you ask, where in SDGs water quality mentioned, or you can make connection with? Yeah, and now I'm talking about the target, the 169 targets. So obviously it's going to be in what SDG 6, because it's about water and sanitation, correct? So you would suspect that, but it could be maybe in other cities, maybe there's mention about water. So up, previous one. Yeah. So the one on the list, those are the indicators. So the one on the bottom here are the environmental, which you are familiar with. The one on the right is social performance. And this is something that not so many people are doing, but it's going to be. So what you're doing, your AMDAL, your environmental impact assessment, is more or less the environmental. Okay. But sustainability not only has environmental, right? We have social and economic. So if you're interested, you can look up social LCA. And it has even more lists of performance indicators. So these are social. There is a, fair corruption there, cultural heritage, something totally out of your, right? But we have to do this, right? Company needs to do this together with environmental health. Okay, we good?
Thank you so much, Pak Datu, for the question and answer, and also for the presentation. So now we jump to the case study for leverage points. But before that, some explanation will be explained by Pak Datu first.
All right, so now it's your turn, okay? You're gonna do the work. It's gonna be fun, I promise you. So the concept of, yes, of leverage point. You remember you playing this when you were little? What do you call this? Jukla? Yeah, we call it seesaw. So the idea you can have a leverage, to change system, right? So that's where this metaphor comes. Next. So I'm going to go over. Yes. So before that, this is not a system thinking issue. The way we operate, our mode of operandi is like this. If we have issues, we think, okay, we need solution, right? And then we develop and we implement. So that man has issue and he thinks he can solve it. All right, next. So, and then this is what I just mentioned. So we want our water to be cleaner. We see the gap. We come up with solution, and then we check the results. Right? Is that very logical? That's what we call event-oriented. So the worldview is problem, find solution, and then that's it. All right, now, what could actually happen is your solution could become a problem too. So next slide. So your solution could actually create a problem, and as a result, next. Remember that man? So what's going to happen? Right? So your solution in long term could actually come back and cause a problem for you. So very quickly there, you have to think about system and the feedback. Okay, so your job is, I mentioned about leverage. Remember that? So this is your system. And you want to make change, right? You think about that Juklak thing. So where do you think you can make the biggest change? Which point? Over here or over there? Over here, right? This will make the biggest impact, but most of us actually doing here because it's easy. You just change the parameters. You just slide the numbers. Okay, we're gonna add more subsidies. But here you have to change the way the system, the goals of the system, right there. And it's about intent. You have to change how information flows. That's also a solution, but a different level than the material. Huh? You have to change the process, meaning how people interact. So now I want you, we'll give you a case study about transportation system. I want you to think about how you could actually change the system and use the whole spectrum. So I want you to not only focus on the material one. So here's some example, right? There's a booklet, right? We will give you the booklets or. So number 12, numbers, change, constant, subsidies, tax rates, standards. Changing standard is very easy, but it won't give you too much impact. All right, and then you see structures. The structure, the connection within the system, delays. You can reduce delays in the system. Rules, incentives, punishment, yeah. The goals, paradigm. So that's the idea, right? Remember? So here's the case study. Have you heard about Las Vegas? So the city of Vegas has this, same issue, all big cities. So they have to think about the issues of congestions and air pollution. So the question that I want you to talk with your friends there is, where can you intervene with the system? So here's the thing. Here's what I mean with the conceptual model, right? So all the factors, how they're interconnected. So each of these variables, each of this link between this one and that one, could give you an idea where could you intervene, what kind of policy or decision that you could make to change the system. For example, here, can you do something about CO emissions? Yes, how? So where is here? You focus on this. Then you say how. And the how again, you think about. Right, anyone understand what this about? This is your system, right? Transportation. And with every point there, you can say, I can interpret here. Definitely, because it's going to impact the system the way it's described, right? So you know where, and then the how, I want you to think about this. Go just beyond number 12. Try to see if you can find number 5, rules, number 6, information, so all the decision intervention about rules, about information flows. So I think the idea is to form a team of 6. Each team has 6 members, and then you have use the diagram. So and then I think there's a post-op door. Put the post-it notes and where things can be then discuss with your team. Then at the end, we want each team to have a little presentation about what they discussed.
Yeah, okay. So you guys will be divided into 5 groups, yeah. So I think this you can gather and becomes group 1. You just turn out your chair. Yeah. So group 1 and then group 2, and then we have group 3. Yeah. So this is your causal loop diagram. We have already printed out. So please have a look to your causal loop diagram, transportation system, and choose about the reference points that you want to interfere. Okay. Ya, choose. Nih, dua grup ya. Beneran.
So for the duration is about 30 minutes for the discussion, and for the next one will be presentation time for about 10 minutes. Okay. Good luck, everyone.
So how about you? Have you joined your group? So yeah, it's okay. So this is your causal diagram as Pada to mention. So please choose a leverage points which part you want to intervene. Yeah, and then please give the adjustment why you choose that that aspect. Okay. Aja bebas. Ya nggak sih? Misalnya ini kan aspeknya ini generatifnya mau dikecilin, ya kan? Apa nih? Terus kan ini apakah dari sini kan C over perhitungannya gitu. Kalau ditambah kan menambah 10 kayak gitu. Apa nih kebijakan apa misalnya?
Lihat sheet sekalian kan?
Perekonomian apa nih dikurangin, ini berkurang sehingga ini berkurang, apa nih kejarannya, mungkin apa dulu yang mau kamu kurangi ya tinggal masih udah kan, jadi pilih dulu itu nih yang mana misalnya mau kecil ini ya yang mana, tapi baca dulu sih harusnya apa ini mau di kebijakan ya, sebetulnya kebijakannya apa, cuman kalau ini kita kecilin ini tambah kecil nggak ya gitu, aspek itu change jadinya yang mana, tapi mungkin dilihat dulu nih gitu gitu ya, selalu reference point selesai dari ini baca dari informasi. Iya.
Oke teman-teman, waktunya udah tinggal 1 menit lagi dan kita langsung masuk ke sesi presentasi dimulai dari kelompok 1 dengan waktu 3 menit. Oke, waktu diskusinya udah habis dan sekarang untuk teman-teman boleh kembali ke tempat duduknya masing-masing untuk mendengarkan hasil diskusi kelompok lain. Oh, oke. Oh, boleh di situ aja, tapi mungkin sambil lihat ke depan. Oke. Oke. Sekarang kita mulai dari kelompok 1. Tepuk tangan semuanya.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kenalkan, kami dari kelompok 1. Kok duduk? Jadi pada kesempatan kali ini kami akan coba memaparkan hasil diskusi kami sedikit terkait causal diagram yang sudah diberikan. Jadi permasalahan yang akan kita coba untuk selesaikan adalah bagaimana cara kita bisa mengurangi jumlah karbon monoksida yang dihasilkan gitu. Yang mana bisa kita lihat pada causal diagram salah satu hal yang paling berpengaruh pada CO generated ini adalah jumlah volume personal vehicle yang ada di jalan. Yang mana hal ini akan menyebabkan congestion atau penyumbatan volume di jalan yang kemudian menurunkan kecepatan rata-rata dan pada akhirnya meningkatkan jumlah karbon monoksida yang dihasilkan gitu. Nah, kalau dari sistem yang sudah ada satu hal yang bisa kita tingkatkan untuk bisa mengurangi volume personal vehicle, yaitu adalah dengan dengan menambahkan penggunaan mass transit atau kendaraan umum di suatu wilayah gitu. Yang mana hal ini dipengaruhi oleh adanya ketertarikan dari masyarakat untuk bisa menggunakan mass transit tersebut. Dan hal itu bisa disupport dengan adanya infrastruktur seperti misalkan jumlah rel kereta atau jumlah bicycle route dan lain sebagainya. Dan sebagai tambahan dari kelompok kami juga bisa menambahkan adanya subsidi untuk bagi masyarakat yang sekiranya ingin menggunakan mass transit sehingga bisa menaikkan attractiveness-nya gitu. Begitu. Kemudian hal itu juga bisa kita support juga dengan memperbanyak jumlah transum sehingga lebih banyak orang yang bisa mengakses mass transit tersebut. Kemudian satu hal lagi yang mungkin bisa kita coba ubah gitu dari sistem ini adalah bagaimana adanya hubungan ketika satu sistem kendaraan di jalan itu average speed-nya rendah, nilai CO generated-nya itu makin tinggi karena ketika kita lebih banyak menggunakan kendaraan yang mesinnya menggunakan pembakaran tidak sempurna, ketika kecepatannya lebih rendah, CO yang dihasilkan justru lebih tinggi. Maka dari itu bagaimana jika kita bisa meningkatkan penggunaan kendaraan-kendaraan yang sekiranya bisa memiliki proses pembakaran yang lebih baik atau tidak menggunakan pembakaran sama sekali. Misalkan dengan menggunakan EV atau menggunakan mesin-mesin dengan tingkatan Euro yang lebih tinggi, misalnya Euro 5 dan seterusnya. Dan hal ini tidak perlu menaikkan volume personal vehicles karena kita bisa menggunakan ini pada kendaraan-kendaraan transum atau kendaraan-kendaraan yang masuk misalkan seperti truk sampah dan sebagainya gitu. Atau kita juga bisa juga meningkatkan subsidi pajak untuk penggunaan EV agar attractiveness dari penggunaan ini akan bisa lebih tinggi. Dan ada tambahan?
Ya mungkin dari tadi pasti ada feedback negatifnya juga, yaitu ada peningkatan dari cost. Tapi peningkatan dari cost ini bisa tertutupi dengan adanya peningkatan penggunaan transum. Itu akan membuat cost ini bisa ditekan juga, dan adanya subsidi pajak ini juga dapat mengurangi cost karena pajak ini bukan menambah cost tapi dia tetap ada revenue, tapi revenue-nya hanya berkurang karena kita ringankan pajaknya, seperti itu. Sekian presentasi dari kelompok kami.
Oke, terima kasih kelompok 1. Sekarang kelompok 2.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baiklah, di sini kami dari kelompok 2 akan mencoba memberikan pendapat terkait dengan sistem ini. Untuk yang pertama, jadi mungkin lebih kurang sama seperti kelompok 1 tadi. Jadi kita di sini juga lebih ingin meningkatkan terkait dengan jumlah transportasi umum yang juga itu berkaitan dengan adanya peningkatan infrastruktur mulai dari peningkatan rel kereta dan juga jalur bus. Dan tentunya juga ada hubungannya dengan masyarakatnya, di mana kalau masyarakatnya berkenan untuk menggunakan transportasi umum, maka proses ini bisa dijalankan, dan tentunya juga transportasi umum ini tuh harus benar-benar nyaman untuk digunakan, dan alurnya itu bisa untuk di semua lokasi. Nah, kemudian bagaimana hubungannya dengan CO? Jadi kalau misalnya jumlah transportasi umum tadi ini ditingkatkan, tentunya akan ada pengurangan dari transportasi pribadi dan bisa menekan dari CO. Dan namun CO yang dihasilkan itu tetap ada, tapi akan dikurangi. Makanya ini ada pengurangan terhadap CO-nya. Nah, kemudian bagaimana cara kita meningkatkan dari cost-nya itu, dari adanya konsumsi CO itu, mungkin itu bisa dilakukan dengan pemberian pembiayaan atau sekedar sanksi gitu. Jadi kalau misalnya masyarakat masih berkenan untuk menggunakan transportasi pribadi yang itu di luar dari batasan yang ditentukan oleh pemerintah, jadi akan dikenakan sanksi gitu. Jadi lebih harus menggunakan transportasi umum. Mungkin ada penambah.
Ya, jadi tadi tahap berpikirnya adalah karena yang menyumbang penambahan ke congestion volume atau capacity adalah antara dua ini saja, volume of personal vehicle and street and highways capacity, dan di antara dua cara ini yang paling visible untuk dilakukan adalah ini volume of personal vehicles, karena street and highway capacity itu kalau kita berusaha menambahnya, pertama biayanya lebih besar, kedua itu debatable, tapi yang jelas bumi itu dia tidak bertambah wilayahnya, jadi dia tetap makanya kami mengeliminasi yang rutenya hanya ke sini saja. Lalu untuk populasi sendiri itu juga tadi terpikirkan beberapa solusi seperti misalnya KB atau migrasi ke daerah lain selain Vegas yang lebih less populated. Mungkin itu saja karena waktu juga.
Terima kasih kelompok 2. Sekarang kita ke kelompok 3. Oke.
Okay, thank you. Here in our group 3, we have found that in our causal loop diagram, we can intervene on the use of mass transit and alternative models. Yeah, we consider this as the aspect or an intervention which can result into reduction of the carbon dioxide generation, because from here, from this point, we consider as we have demand, total high number of people demanding traveling or transport. So instead of allowing or without limiting the people to own the car, so we create the system of general transport or public transport. So we expect after introducing this mass transit, we expect number of cars will be reduced. Then most of the people will be encouraged or attracted to use public transport. Hence, we can reduce congestion because no more car will be in the lane. So congestion will be reduced. We expect also carbon emission from the transport, from the fuel. So in turn, we reduce the carbon dioxide generation. So under this scenario also, we need to have the behavioral change. So we need to introduce behavioral change to the people so as to adopt public transportation. Let me give the colleague to add more.
Ya, menambahkan sedikit izin, seperti yang sudah disampaikan oleh teman kami, kami memfokuskan penggunaan bagaimana mengubah perilaku masyarakat untuk menggunakan moda transportasi ini, tapi kami juga memfokuskan bagaimana untuk tidak memperbesar cost-nya gitu, karena kan otomatis kebutuhan akan transport ini semakin besar juga akan ada cost yang timbul gitu. Nah, opsi yang kami ambil adalah dengan mengoptimalkan rute dan melakukan integrasi antar moda sehingga masyarakat bisa atau mau lah gitu untuk menggunakan transportasi umum tanpa repot. Mungkin dari kami sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih kelompok 4 dan selanjutnya adalah kelompok 4. Terima kasih kelompok.
Oke, selamat sore Pak Datu dan rekan-rekan. Kami dari kelompok 4 akan menjelaskan tentang hasil diskusi kami. Jadi, dalam rangka mewujudkan sustainable transportation system di Las Vegas, ada beberapa hal yang kelompok kami telah diskusikan. Yang pertama itu fokus kami adalah pada mengurangi volume dari personal vehicles, yaitu dengan peraturan untuk menaikkan pajak kendaraan, kemudian menaikkan biaya parkir, dan juga memberikan subsidi untuk transportasi umum di Las Vegas. Kemudian untuk penggunaan dari jadi untuk yang nomor 2 itu untuk meningkatkan penggunaan transportasi umum, kami bermaksud menambah jalur transportasi, kemudian juga kapasitas dari pengangkutan transportasi itu sendiri, kemudian ada membangun infrastruktur integrasi transportasi dengan beberapa moda transportasi, kemudian juga meningkatkan kenyamanan dari transportasi. Kemudian ada juga pembangunan fasilitas jalan kaki yang nyaman dan jalur sepeda, di mana nanti jalur sepeda ini akan menumbuhkan komunitas-komunitas lokal. Kemudian yang terpenting itu dan hal yang paling mendasar itu adalah peningkatan kesadaran masyarakat melalui kampanye sosial, melalui pendidikan, media massa dan juga media sosial. Kemudian ada pengembangan teknologi transportasi ramah lingkungan, itu tujuannya untuk mengurangi emisi CO2, di mana kita mengkampanyekan penggunaan kendaraan listrik di kendaraan umum maupun kendaraan pribadi. Demikian hasil diskusi kelompok kami, kurang lebihnya mohon maaf. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih kelompok 4. Dan yang terakhir adalah kelompok 5.
Ya baik, kami dari kelompok terakhir. Jadi dari diskusi yang kami lakukan, jadi kita nge-propose 3 solusi. Jadi untuk yang pertamanya itu adalah kita meningkatkan penggunaan dari mass transit and alternative modes, di mana menambahkan jenis dan jumlah rute transportasi publik, serta kami menekankan untuk menggunakan transportasi publik yang menggunakan energi yang lebih ramah lingkungan gitu. Terus yang kedua, kami mengurangi volume dari personal vehicles, yaitu adanya penambahan kebijakan pemerintah dalam penggunaan kendaraan pribadi. Jadi yang pertama ini peraturannya itu adalah pajak ditingkatkan atau lebih mahal pada kendaraan dengan tahun yang lebih tua. Kemudian karena kami berasumsi bahwa dengan semakin tuanya kendaraan maka CO2-nya itu akan lebih banyak atau lebih berbahaya bagi lingkungan. Kemudian untuk yang kedua itu kami mempropos semakin rendahnya isi penumpang pada setiap kendaraan itu, biaya tolnya itu akan menjadi lebih mahal seperti itu. Kami menggunakan teknologi thermal atau kamera sensor. Kemudian yang ketiga itu meningkatkan attractiveness and mass transit and modes, di mana untuk yang pertama itu kami membuat tren bisa tren di sosial media dalam menggunakan transportasi publik atau umum atau alternative modes. Kemudian yang keduanya meningkatkan kenyamanan dalam public transport atau alternative modes, di mana kalau misalnya orang-orang itu sadar bahwa menggunakan transportasi itu nyaman, maka kan peningkatan penggunaan transportasi umumnya juga akan meningkat. Jadi dengan hal tersebut maka dapat meningkatkan
selanjutnya setelah kita ke sini ya, tadi sini kan, setelah attractiveness and mass transit and alternative modes dipilih untuk selanjutnya akan mengurangi volume dari personal vehicles atau kendaraan pribadi. Nah, selain itu kami juga memilih untuk meningkatkan atau dilakukannya pelebaran jalan, atau kenapa kita memilih itu, karena agar mengurangi kapasitas kendaraan di jalan raya tersebut. Kemudian selain itu sehingga akan menyebabkan sistem weighted average speed itu akan menurun, di mana sistem weighted average speed ini merupakan bukan hanya kecepatan tapi semua sistem termasuk dengan kemacetan dan lain sebagainya. Sehingga hasil yang kita inginkan yaitu menurunkan emisi CO di kota tersebut. Kenapa kita tidak memilih untuk menurunkan populasi terlebih dahulu? Karena itu merupakan hal yang cukup sulit untuk dilakukan. Jika beberapa cara atau solusi ini belum tercapai, maka ya kembali ke penekanan populasi di kota tersebut. Terima kasih.
Oke, terima kasih banyak teman-teman. Sekarang kita masuk ke sesi feedback dari Pak Dato.
Alright, good job, good job. Mungkin saya Indonesia aja ya, biar nggak lupa. 2 poin. Pertama, kita lihat tadi ada 12 ya, leverage point. Jadi yang memang paling gampang dipikirkan itu tadi memberikan tax subsidies, itu yang material flow ya. Jadi saya ingatkan kembali bahwa itu bisa, cuman efeknya not so influential ya, not so impactful. Dan ingat kan di main jingkrak tadi, semakin ke atas semakin besar impactnya. Jadi misalnya, for example, population, some of you might have touched that. I think that's in a good direction. But take a look at the total demand for transport. Why do we need to go from A to B? Untuk kerja ya. Sekarang pertanyaannya, and that has to do with the distance per trip. So now imagine if your work is close to where you live. Yeah? All right, so you know where I'm going. And then remember during COVID, work from home, no traffic at all, even empty streets, right? Can we think about beyond just, building more roads and then that's my second point. Then we need to now to make that happen, we need to work with companies because they are the one who allow their workers to work from home. Yeah, Gojek, Grab, they have to be part of the solution, correct? So yeah, and then the last point is if you are able to build this causal loop diagram, actually I want you to draw arrows, point to all of these possibilities, right? All of these variables, all of the links could become sort of not an inspiration. So you potentially you can say, if I change here, it will have a system impact, right? So you have to consider every point and systematically, is this possible? What is possible here? Until you cover everything. And then you say, okay, I've considered system-wide, and then start the possibilities from the easy one, to more structural, right? The change could be just adding more roads, but it could be more structural, like change people's way of life, right? So that requires a bigger, I think some of you mentioned it's difficult. It's difficult, but it will give you more results, impact, right? Better impact. Yeah, I guess that's all. Anyone want to comment what they learned from this exercise? Madabi.
Insight baru sih, banyak insight baru tentang sustainable transportation system yang dimana bisa diterapkan di berbagai kota menurut saya Pak ya, karena seperti di Jakarta pun sekarang sudah menerapkan seperti itu. Mungkin mereka belajar dari
diskusi tadi.
Baik, izin mungkin terkait apa yang saya dapatkan dari diskusi tadi, bahwa dari kelompok kami saja Pak itu ada banyak point of view untuk bagaimana membuat sistem ini menjadi lebih baik. Jadi tidak ada sudut pandang yang betul-betul benar, tetapi kita bisa mengelaborate beberapa sudut pandang menjadi sesuatu yang paling baik seperti itu Pak. Di sini juga saya ada satu pertanyaan Pak untuk Bapak, terutama terkait paradigma sistem ya. Sebenarnya bagaimana sih Pak kita merubah sebuah paradigma di sistem ini? Key point-nya itu di mana itu Pak?
Masalah kita, polusi, tadi kan demand for transportation. Sekarang paradigmanya di mana kita apakah emang harus ini gitu? Apakah kita harus naik kali Jakarta 2 jam kena macet? How we have to be very creative. Tapi mungkin balik dari semua cara kita ini kalau kita terima, akhirnya keberangkatan semuanya harus tambah
Oh iya.
Okay, thank you so much for the session of discussion. Well, now I think this is the end of our Kopi Sore hosted by PSLH ITB. Thank you so much, Pak Datu, for the honorable and also insightful presentation. And hopefully from this Kopi Sore session could be valuable for broaden our knowledge. Okay, so yeah. So to end this Kopi Sore, I wanna remind for everyone in Zoom, please do fill the form in the chat box. And now time for photo session for the documentation. So please come forward, everyone here. Okay, thank you so much for all the participants, and you guys may leave this room.